right, come on in, everybody. Welcome back to the Holler. tnholler.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter and Facebook. We also have hollers hollering all across the state. That's all thanks to your support. Please keep the support coming. It really helps us out. And a couple quick shout outs to Elisa Parker. If you're buying or selling in Middle Tennessee, do it through her. If you need a lawyer, Abby Rubenfeld is very supportive of us. And if any of you guys need any jewelry, tequila, AJ Martin in Nashville, not your grandmother's jewelry store. All right, those are very supportive people of us, so we like to shout them out at the beginning. Amber, you can get some jewelry from there too. I see you smiling. So today we're going to talk about something that we've been covering at the Holler lately, something going on in Memphis, Shelby County, and but really it's kind of got ramifications for the whole state and the country, really. So we're going to talk to the Memphis Schoolboard 5 is what they're calling them. And we got 4 of the 5 on here with us. I hope you're all doing great. Just to kind of tee it up here, basically, these are education advocates for public education in Tennessee, and they have been banned by the Memphis Shelby County School Board from going to any Memphis Shelby County properties and events, and it was kind of sudden. So I guess we're going to start. Let's go to you, Tequila. When did you realize you were banned, and what did you think it was about?
I found out that I was banned when I tried to attend the meeting, the board retreat about the superintendent search on May the 12th. Once I went into the building, I was guided into a room that was full of Memphis police officers, as well as the Shelby County School officer and chief. And they were serving me with a piece of paper saying that I could not come to any meeting or on any property forever. And they said it was for disruptive behavior. When I asked them what did I do, no one could tell me what I did. They just said you just can't come to any schools, any properties within Shelby County School District ever.
Wow. Okay. And Amber, is that the same thing that happened to you? I saw Rachel's video getting banned. Police talking to Rachel, escorting her out. We've seen Tequila run into some barricades. LJ, I saw you were there that day, but Amber, what was the same thing happened to you? What happened to you?
Yeah, so I found out that I was banned. I was actually in Atlanta working on Stop Cop City work. So I wasn't there for that particular meeting. And so I found out I was banned from Rachel and LJ's live videos. So when I came back to town on Tuesday, I went to the school board office to find out if I was banned as well. And the security officer came out after making me wait for 20 minutes and told me that I was, but wouldn't give me the paper, just like with Rachel and Tequila, wouldn't hand me the paper. So I told her to let me see it. She wouldn't even let me hold it. So I had to take a picture at a weird angle, and then told me I had to wait on the police to arrive. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. You give me wait 20 minutes. I saw the paper. I took a picture. I'm going to leave. You don't get to inconvenience me because you're on whatever time you want to be on doing illegal activities to infringe on people's constitutional rights. That doesn't work like that. So then I left.
Why were you banned, though, Rachel? What reason did they give you for banning you from these public school grounds? How it seems like a very drastic step to take, one that should come because of violence or threats. What did you do to deserve this?
So of course, we know that it was not. I did not deserve it. So what was told to me was that I was disruptive in the May 9th meeting where I questioned the school board. I asked them what did supporting an interim look like in the middle of a national search. I asked them what did support for an interim look like as it relates to the policy at this point in the search. And I went on and asked several questions, and I was stopped in the middle of asking those questions and was told that I couldn't continue. And at that time, we've had a run-in with MPD and the school officers, and they began to surround me. And at that point, different people from the crowd who had been supporting everything that we had been doing had started standing with me because, of course, the intimidation was obvious. And they started surrounding me because we had officers coming from every end. And they didn't have an explanation, and then they finally, people was like, what is the problem? Why can't she continue? And eventually, we all sat down, we all went through the entire meeting, and then we were told I was the first one banned. And so I'm coming in with my water bottle thinking I'm getting ready to attend the next meeting, and was met with so much aggression, was met with MPD, was met with these officers, and was issued an AOA.
LJ, what's really going on here? Like, what is going on?
I mean, the day that Rachel got banned, I showed up because I saw her live video, and I was like, let me go pull up and make sure she's all right. And when I got there, they were just pointing at me, and they were pretty much like, I guess, trying to identify that I was one of the people that they presumed to be banned. They brought the paperwork to me, but then would not allow me to see it and walked away. They kept trying to take me off into a room by myself to serve me with the paperwork, and I refused to go along with 5 MPD officers. And so what ended up happening was Carolyn Jackson herself pointed me out and asked them to give me the paper, but they wouldn't physically give me the paper. I had to take a photo of it, just like Amber did. And then they asked me to sign it, which I refused to do so. But it was an authorization of agency, basically saying there was no given dates to when the ban would end, no information, no signatures. It was just a blanketed piece of paper that we were all given.
It's crazy. Well, I just want people to see some of what you guys were dealing with. This is really your First Amendment rights being violated, it seems, and I still haven't really come to understand why this is happening. And so I'm hopeful that you maybe have an idea.
Exercise our rights to enter into this public meeting. We understand that our First Amendment rights have been violated.
Ms. Briggs, Ms. Rucker, Ms. Abraham, Mr. Morris, you guys have been issued an AOA, right? We've served it to you. You've received it. We've met with you, Ms. Briggs. You cannot come to our meeting because of what we told you in the AOA, okay? You understand, Ms. Briggs? You understand, Ms. Rucker?
I do.
You understand, Mr. Morris?
So you can see Justin Pearson's there standing with you all that day, and appreciate that he's doing that, obviously. But again, I just keep going back to, like, something's going on here, right? Like, what is it that ties you all together, Tequila? What is it that made it you 5 that they decided to ban the 5 of you? What do you all have in common?
What we have in common is that we stand up and we speak truth to power. We showed up and we called for transparency and integrity during the nationwide superintendent search because we believe that our students deserve better. And so that's the one thread that connects us, that we are trying to hold elected officials here in Memphis accountable, from the school board to the city council to the county commissioners to our state representatives. And that's the thread that connects us all.
And Rachel, we saw Shalia Harris step down. She was the vice chair. She called it the highest level of ignorance. She said there was corruption and self-dealing on the board. And, she was not holding back. She did one interview with Stormy Taylor this week where she didn't hold back. She talked about it. Was her stepping down tied to what's going on with you guys, and how, Rachel?
It's definitely tied. I think that some of the same concerns that Shalia has is the same concerns that we have. And Shalia has been a huge voice in this process. And Shalia is an advocate, a huge advocate, period. But I think that as it relates to us, we were calling out the same corruption. We were calling out the same discrepancies around the search. And I think that when they got to the point where they were willing to openly change the criteria specifically for this interim, I think that was Shalia's breaking point. And so we stand with Shalia. We understand the weight it requires, it takes to be on that board and to be alone and feel alone, many, doing most of this process. And so we stand with her and we fight for her. We the people now have to stand up, is where we are with that. And so.
Right. That makes sense. And Amber, one of our commenters is asking about charter schools. And, that's sort of something that we see throughout this entire state right now, is kind of a privatization push where any entry point that the privatization forces can get into our public school systems. I think Memphis is maybe the biggest public school system in the country, or at least definitely in the state, which means there's a lot of money in the public school system, which means there are a lot of people that want to steer that money to private hands. Charter schools are privately run entities, even though they call them public schools. Obviously, there are vouchers in the state also. So do you think there's a tie between what's going on with this superintendent search and the interim superintendent and the privatization efforts that we're seeing led by Governor Lee in this state? Amber, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a connection. I think the main thing that folks are paying, like who are paying attention to the meetings, are noticing the amount of contracts that are going to people who used to be employed at the district, the amount of charter school applications that have been approved or renewed in some way. Even at charter schools that folks don't, want to still be in business or still be operating. Even schools that discriminate against students and kick them out, they're still allowed to operate as charter schools. And we know that that's how it starts, right? We just give a few contracts here to our friends, give this person a big contract. Maybe this person wants to start a charter school. We give them, the access they need. And we're seeing that happen in the school board.
So LJ, we saw Shalia step down. As far as the makeup of the school board, is it like the rest of them are doing this to you guys, or do you think there are some in there that maybe wish this wasn't happening? Like, has it completely fallen into the hands of people that support this kind of action?
I for sure know that there are a few people who do not support the ban, and they've been very vocal about that. I do think there's like a small group of people who do want to see us banned, and maybe more specifically because they feel intimidated or because they know that we're the ones that are going to come forward and call them out unapologetically. We're going to call them out. We're going to say what needs to be said, and we're going to ask for things that need to be asked for. And so I don't think that everybody supports the decision. I just think that there's a few people who have the power that put this ban in place.
Well, you guys aren't taking it sitting down. You've already filed lawsuit, which we saw this week. Tequila, I know there's probably not a ton you can tell me about the lawsuit, but what can you tell me? You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So I can tell you that the lawsuit has been filed, and we do have a date to appear in court and make testimonies as it relates to what has transpired around this act.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They have banned you pretty much without cause. That should be really concerning to everybody, Rachel, right? I mean, if they can do this to you, they can do this to anybody. And, this is pretty un-American to ban people for speaking their mind about our schools, especially citizens, and especially something as sensitive as, the superintendent search and just generally what we are doing to educate our kids in this moment. So, what do you feel about your chances of this lawsuit succeeding, Rachel?
I think definitely. I think they've been. I think that they know that this is a misstep, and they are now giving it. They're putting it all on Chief Jackson, who the interim is saying she gave full autonomy to make the decisions around this ban. It already speaks to maybe she, the decision making is not as good as we need it to be running the largest district. You give full autonomy to your chief, and then I think that you just got to be really careful when you start talking. Like, we know that there is a direct connection, as Amber was saying. We're talking about the private, them trying to privatize public schools and who's all behind that. We know our former superintendent is a consultant to the interim, and he's also a part of City Fund, who is not shy, not secretive about the fact that he, City Fund is very upfront about the fact that they want to privatize public schools, and to have that conflict of interest there. And so just got to look at all of it. This ban is so much bigger than us. And so every chance we get, we try to bring it right back to the kids who are going to suffer the most, due to all of that is going on around the bans and all that's going around the superintendent search.
That sounds good. Amber, it looks like you got something you want to add on that.
I was just reading Liz's comment, and I agree. I think that's also a big issue with charter schools, is that Memphis does not release accurate information around the data, and they make it seem as if, that these charter schools are better schools, and that's a way of defunding public education. And it starts with the school board. The school board could ask for better data transparency. They're not. They're not holding them accountable. I went to charter schools for middle school and part of high school, and I can tell you that they definitely are treating students like, if you don't meet a certain standard, if you're not perfect, they'll just kick you out, and they say we're not re-inviting you to attend this school, because charter schools have discretion in that way. And then those numbers aren't reported the same either. And if I'm not an athlete or playing an instrument, then I don't get the same type of respect as just a regular student. And because charter schools also are required to provide resources like mental health counseling or certain IEP services, they're excused from things like that. And they get away with treating students in this way, and then also skewing the data around what they're actually doing in their schools to make it seem like a charter school is a safer, better option, when realistically it's not.
We're now joined late by Damon. Damon, thanks for jumping in here. We've been talking about the ban. Is there anything you want to say to the people about the ban and the violation of your rights?
Good afternoon, you all. I had a little bit of trouble getting on. I'm so sorry. Well, now it just seems to be very just vindictive far as the Shelby County School Board on my behalf goes on. I haven't had any questions answered as far as me personally. There were a lot of things that was in the letter that they had sent to me that was very egregious and hasn't been proven with any kind of fact at this particular time. Community members have come to my defense as far as just, saying, even one board member, without mentioning me by name, was asking, what particularly did this one person do, and it wasn't. And what I do want to get the facts out there. I was on the phone with board security for 2 weeks, 1 week leading up to the ban, 1 week after the ban. I was told by constituent services that the security doesn't speak to parents. I do have 7 Memphis Shelby County School students that are under my direct guardianship by court. They violated a 20-year protection order over those children when these AOAs came out, because I had to identify the schools that they were at and the schools that they attended. I've been through this with the district attorney's office. I've been through that with the district. I finally got to talk to someone from security. It wasn't the deputy chief or Chief Jackson themselves. And I had to get special permission to go to my nephew's 8th grade promotion exercise, which I was flanked by 7 officers to the office and to the gym. So I don't know where they get this rhetoric that someone has tried to contact us for a meeting or anything of that nature, because I was in contact with the district while all this was going on. So that's one thing that's been puzzling to me.
And you're all party to the lawsuit?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay.
Yes, we all are.
Okay, so Tequila, what can people do to help? Like, where do you want people to focus their energy as far as, fighting this ban, standing with you guys? Is there an event coming up soon they can come stand with you? What do you want people to know coming out of this interview?
So coming out of this interview, what people can do. So there was a meeting today that has now been canceled. So there's a school board meeting next Tuesday, June 27th at 5:30, where they will be making decisions around the search as well as the current superintendent's contract. We have a email campaign that's going on, asking people to email the school board members, one, asking them not to extend the interim contract, also to bring integrity to this process. We're going to fight this ban with under the direction of our our counsel, our attorney. So as it relates to that, we had a letter going out asking them to lift that ban, but we know that it has now moved beyond their, out of their hands. So we're in a system as it relates to that. But the most important thing is that integrity and transparency is brought to this superintendent search. This district is the largest district in the state of Tennessee that serves over 100,000 students, over in its service to over 600,000 in this community. And so what we need is a fair process. We need the best person in that position. We know that board members have we have a board member that have now lowered the standards for what we would have or who can qualify as a superintendent. And so that is unacceptable. And so what we really calling for is the community to show up, call for the school system to do better, hold elected officials accountable so that we can get this right this time.
Well, it seems like what they're doing to you all is going to highlight what's happening with that superintendent search. So it's almost like they brought more eyeballs onto their search and their self-dealings and their dealings by doing this to you. And I think that tends to happen. We saw it with the Tennessee 3 also, where the reaction is always what kind of tells on them. And historically, that's kind of what shows people what's going on. LJ, you want to weigh in on that at all?
I was going to say, if I may add also with Shalia resigning, I think that spoke volumes to how disastrous this search actually is. And I think it just comes to a point where it's bringing everything to a head, that people are just frustrated and they're tired and they want to see accountability and they want to see a qualified superintendent. So I think it's a really, really good thing not a good thing that this happened to us per se, but I think that it sheds light on the corruption that is taking place in Memphis County School Board.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on here. Just any final words, Amber, anything you want to say as we get out of here?
Just mainly that banning us is not going to work. And as we see now, we are seeking, a legal case with them, but we also are going to, like Tequila said, shed light on the superintendent process. So we're just asking folks to pay attention to what's happening. These are your tax dollars, and this is how your school board chooses to use them.
And if I may add to LJ's point, if you go back, former school board member Shalia Harris did an interview this past weekend. And if you go and look at it, she basically said the same thing that LJ just said and Tequila just said about, if you listen to them very carefully, they gave you the clues to the corruption.
Right.
And
I heard her
she
say
said
that. What
that,
was she saying though? It was something about how they were moving the approval process out of like the finance office into
the finance office.
Into the finance office. Okay, yeah, I was a little confused by. I know she was probably right, but I was confused what she was saying.
Yeah, she said if everybody look at what they said, they giving you the evidence right clearly in front of your face. So that's where if she's calling for an audit, that's the first place that someone needs.
Right. That makes sense. All right, cool. Well, and Rachel, do you have anything you want to say? I know we're losing your connection a little bit just before we drop off. Any final thoughts? Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
All right. Well, let's get you out of here on this. I'm going to play the.
May I add one more thing really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
May I add one more thing really quickly? So I've been having conversations with teachers also recently who feel like intimidation if they speak up in reference to the Board of Education or if they speak to the superintendent search. And I just think that is another way that they are using their power to kind of take away from actually finding somebody who's qualified. They're silencing the teachers as well and not allowing them to speak up to what they believe would be best for them. But that ultimately affects our children as well.
Yeah, silencing dissent is the common denominator throughout the state in so many different ways. When people don't get the answers they want, they don't get the compliance, then they just find ways to shut you up using the power of the state. That's what fascism is. It takes many forms. So, that's what we're seeing throughout the state. We shouldn't be afraid to name it, call it what it is, and stand up to it, which you five have absolutely done. And so we'll definitely be looking forward to watching what happens with your lawsuit and to keeping an eye on the superintendent search, which I really didn't know much about until this happened to you. And now I feel like I do know what's going on with the superintendent search. And, that's a mistake, I think, to make us aware of what you're doing. So just you doing what you did made us aware of it. If we're aware of it, that means other people are going to be aware of it. So, that's just, the world working and that's how things go. So please keep speaking up and stand up for what's right and let the chips fall after that. Just as a final thing here, I just wanted to show this was the newscast on Shalia Harris stepping down. And, she was another person who stood up to what
Shelby
was
County
wrong.
Schools Vice Chair Shalia Harris suddenly resigned in a meeting, disagreeing with the board on changing qualifications for the superintendent.
This is the highest level of ignorance I've ever been a part of.
Strong words repeated in an email she sent Thursday night, laying out the reasons why she quit. She said she called out issues like the district being too top-heavy in pay, that the school district and board have directly benefited from certain contracts. There was a dummy account found by the interim superintendent that just vanished, and the superintendent search was manipulated.
I mean, those are pretty strong allegations coming from the vice chair of the Memphis Shelby County School Board. That should make everybody sit up and take notice. And again, that's stuff that we now know about because of you all. Really appreciate you all being here. Any final thoughts, Tequila?
Just want to thank you for amplifying what's happening here in Shelby County. Again, just asking and challenging everyone to get involved, pay attention to what's happening. Change does not happen without all of us figuring out what our role is and showing up. We need more people to get involved in issues that's impacting our communities and showing up at the polls to elect the right people.
All right, that's great. Well, thank you all for being here. Keep us posted on how things are going. Good luck with the lawsuit, and we'll see y'all down the road.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Bye.
Peace.
So that was the Memphis Schoolboard 5 joining us here live on the Holler. We appreciate them coming on. Again, that's going on in Memphis, Shelby County, where they've been banned from going to public school grounds and meetings, really for no reason whatsoever, which is pretty shocking that can be done and should alarm everybody. If they can do it to them, they can do it to anybody. So sit up and take notice. We're going to try to keep an eye on it to highlight what's going on there. But standing up does help. It does work. And another example of that was just last night in Williamson County. They blocked the banning of 5 books from their school libraries that were being pushed by Moms for Liberty linked school board members. 7 of them stood up and said no to the bans. They accepted the recommendation of the library board to say that they should be kept on the shelves. And that happened last night. That happened because Williamson Strong and others sounded the alarm about what was going on, which people might not have known about had they not. So it's really important to speak up. It's really important to let people know what's going on. It's hard to keep up with everything. We try to help as best we can, but we miss stuff too. So that's really important. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, this just happened last night. I think we helped break the news. It's pretty horrifying. An email went out from Vanderbilt telling people who have gotten trans healthcare using a state plan, but also some not using a state plan, that, oh, by the way, we just gave all your information to the Tennessee Attorney General and we regret it, but it was with regard to a pending civil suit of some sort, and we had to do it. We were required to do it. So that went out last night. We were emailed by a number of people, including one person who said they were shaken up, that they did not consent to have their medical information released, and they're feeling very frightened and dehumanized. And it's pretty shocking that Vandy would have done this without giving anybody a warning. They didn't seem to fight it. This wasn't like they're asking for it and we're refusing to give it to them. This wasn't like we're being sued. This was an email on Juneteenth at night telling people, oh, by the way, here's a thing we just did. So that's a pretty scary thing that I think a lot of people are afraid. They don't trust the Attorney General of Tennessee. He's been nakedly political and partisan in his short time in office. That's Jonathan Skrmetti is his name. And so for them to now have basically a list of people who are getting trans healthcare in Tennessee, not just surgeries, but trans healthcare in Tennessee through Vandy, that's a pretty frightening thing. And again, even if it's not happening to you directly, it's the kind of thing where it should frighten you that it's happening to anybody, because if it's happening to anybody, it can happen to anybody. So that's an important thing to keep an eye on. That just happened here. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that. But again, we broke that news last night that Vanderbilt has given a list of and medical information of people getting trans care in Tennessee to the Tennessee Attorney General, who is a nakedly partisan attorney general who has not shied away from engaging in those fights and attacks. And it's scaring a lot of people. So this is a time to keep speaking up in this state. This is a time to keep pushing for what's right. We need people not to leave, but to stay and fight. And again, another thing that is coming down the pike in August is the special session on gun reform. We've seen that most Tennesseans support a red flag law. This was even from the Tennessee Firearms Association's own poll, and then they ran a Twitter poll that blew up in their face, Twitter poll. The kids at Protect Guns Not Kids are trying to put up billboards that encourage Governor Lee to stick to his commitment on the special session to make it about gun safety laws, but he's already backing away from it, as we saw this week in the Tennessean. They said that he appears to be backing away from his proposal, saying the legislature will take the lead on any gun-related policies, which they say is a change compared to his admonishment of lawmakers in April, saying we owe Tennesseans a vote. So spineless Governor Lee is at it again, and he thinks that people are just going to move on and forget. But you can't forget. You got to stand up for what's right and keep speaking up, and we'll try to be here to help you do that. Thank you all for joining us here on the Holler again, and we'll see you next time.